Victory had just finished her evening routine, a quick workout, a hot shower, and a few pages of the latest thriller novel she'd picked up. She was just settling onto the couch with a cup of tea when a knock echoed through her quiet home. It was nearly midnight. Victory frowned, setting her mug down. Visitors weren't common, especially not at this hour. Opening the door, she was met with a sight that sent a jolt through her chest. Parker stood there, shivering slightly in the cool night air. Her face was pale, her eyes red and puffy from crying. In her arms was a duffel bag, slung low as if it weighed a ton. But what struck Victory the most was the fear and vulnerability etched into her childhood friend's face. "Parker?" Victory breathed, her heart thundering in her chest. "What are you doing here?" Parker's lips quivered, and tears spilled over her cheeks. "I didn't know where else to go." Her voice cracked, and she looked down ashamed. "I'm pregnant. Danny doesn't want the baby. My parents, they disowned me. I didn't know who else to turn to." Victory's chest tightened. She hadn't seen Parker in over a year, not since a strained coffee meetup where Danny's disapproving gaze had lingered on them like a storm cloud. But this was Parker, her Parker, the girl she'd grown up with, shared secrets with, and loved, in a way she'd never dared to confess. "Come inside," Victory said gently, stepping aside. "You're freezing." Victory and Parker's story began in a small suburban neighborhood, where summer days were spent climbing trees, building forts, and riding bikes until the streetlights came on. Parker was the adventurous one, always leading the charge into their next escapade. Victory, more reserved, often followed Parker's lead, trusting her implicitly. Their favorite spot was the old oak tree at the edge of the park. It had thick, low-hanging branches perfect for climbing, and a hollow in the trunk where they stashed their treasures, bits of colored glass, feathers, and notes written in a secret code they'd invented. "Someday, we'll run away and live in a treehouse," Parker had declared one lazy summer afternoon, lying on a branch with the sun filtering through the leaves. Victory had laughed. "What about food? And showers?" "We'll figure it out," Parker had replied confidently. "As long as we're together, nothing else matters." Victory had believed her. Back then, it felt like nothing could ever come between them. But as they grew older, life began to pull them in different directions. High school was a whirlwind of new experiences and shifting dynamics. Parker became a cheerleader, her natural charisma and infectious energy making her popular. Victory, on the other hand, found solace in the ROTC program, drawn to its structure and discipline. Their worlds started to diverge, but they always found time for each other. Late-night phone calls, study sessions, and sneaking out to stargaze kept their bond strong. Yet, Victory began to notice changes. Parker's laughter seemed a little forced, her smiles a bit strained. And then came Danny. Danny was Parker's first serious boyfriend. He was charming and confident, the kind of guy who turned heads. At first, Victory tried to be happy for Parker, but it was hard to ignore the way Danny monopolized her time and subtly discouraged her from spending time with Victory. "You're spending a lot of time with him," Victory had said one day, trying to keep the hurt out of her voice. Parker had sighed. "I know. It's just he's really important to me. But you're important too. Don't think I've forgotten that." But things only got worse. Danny didn't like Victory, and he didn't hide it. He made snide comments about her being in the ROTC, about her tomboyish demeanor. "Why do you even hang out with her?" Danny had said once, not realizing Victory could hear. "She's so weird." Parker had defended her, but the damage was done. Victory began to pull back, not wanting to be a source of tension in Parker's life. The final blow came when Victory came out as gay. It was her senior year, and she'd finally mustered the courage to tell her parents. They were supportive, but Parker's family was another story. Parker's parents were conservative, and when they found out, they forbade Parker from seeing Victory. "This is ridiculous," Parker had fumed during one of their secret phone calls. "You're still the same person you've always been. Why can't they see that?" "It's not your fault," Victory had said, though her heart ached. "We'll figure it out." But as time passed, their calls grew less frequent. Parker was busy with college applications and her relationship with Danny. Victory enlisted in the army after graduation, seeking a fresh start. The distance, both physical and emotional, grew insurmountable. Now, years later, Parker was back in her life, and Victory couldn't ignore the feelings she'd buried. Parker sat on the couch, clutching a mug of hot cocoa Victory had hastily prepared. She looked small, vulnerable, and it tore at Victory's heart. "I'm sorry to just show up like this," Parker murmured. "I didn't know where else to go." "You don't have to apologize," Victory replied firmly. "You're always welcome here." Parker's eyes filled with tears again. "You're too kind to me. After everything, I've been a terrible friend." Victory shook her head. "We've both had our lives. But you're here now, and that's what matters." Parker's gaze lingered on Victory, searching. "Why are you like this? Why do you care so much?" Victory hesitated. Her mind flashed to years of buried feelings, to stolen glances and aching goodbyes. But she pushed it down. "Because you're my friend, Parker. And you're carrying a life. You shouldn't have to go through this alone." The days turned into weeks. Victory had insisted Parker take her bedroom while she slept on the couch, but the old sofa's springs weren't kind to her back. Parker noticed the way Victory winced when she bent to pick something up or how she stretched her back during quiet moments. "You're limping," Parker said one morning, hands on her hips and a determined expression on her face. "I'm not letting you sleep on that couch anymore. We can share the bed." Victory hesitated, her hand gripping the back of a chair. "Are you sure? I don't want to make you uncomfortable." Parker's gaze softened. "You've done more for me than anyone else ever has. You've given me a home, a chance to feel safe again. The least I can do is make sure you're not breaking your back every night." Despite Parker's reassurance, Victory felt a twinge of unease as they prepared for bed that night. The mattress seemed impossibly large, yet the air between them felt charged. They lay stiffly at first, each on their own side, carefully avoiding the middle. The first night was quiet, but the awkwardness began to fade as the nights passed. One morning, Victory woke to find Parker's hand lightly resting on hers. She stayed still, her heart pounding, unwilling to disturb the moment. Another night, their legs brushed beneath the covers, and Parker murmured an apology, her voice soft with sleep. Each touch sent a thrill through Victory, though she tried to ignore it. She found herself lingering in bed longer in the mornings, savoring the quiet warmth of Parker's presence. And Parker, though she said nothing, seemed to relax more each day, her laughter returning, her smiles becoming more frequent. The bed, once a symbol of discomfort and hesitation, slowly became a place of unspoken understanding and closeness. Victory supported Parker in every way she could, from financial help to emotional support. Despite the grueling hours at the garage, she never missed Parker's doctor appointments. At their first ultrasound, as the rhythmic sound of the baby's heartbeat filled the room, tears streamed down Parker's face. Victory held her hand tightly, her own eyes brimming with emotion. The moment was overwhelming, a profound sense of protectiveness settling in her chest. Weekends became a time of bonding as they worked together to decorate the spare room, transforming it into a cozy nursery. The walls were painted a soft yellow, adorned with whimsical animal decals. Parker's laughter filled the house as Victory struggled to assemble the crib, muttering curses under her breath and blaming the overly complicated instructions. "You've got the legs on backward," Parker teased, leaning against the doorway, a playful grin lighting up her face. Victory groaned dramatically, throwing down the screwdriver. "I'm a mechanic, not a carpenter. How do people do this without losing their minds?" Parker stepped forward, taking the tools from Victory's hands. "Come on, let's figure it out together. Like we always used to." The hours passed quickly, filled with laughter, teamwork, and a renewed sense of closeness. As they stood back to admire their handiwork, Parker turned to Victory, her expression softening. "I've missed this," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "Being with you. Laughing like this. It feels right." Victory's heart swelled at the words, a flicker of hope sparking within her. But she quickly tamped it down, reminding herself of Parker's vulnerability. She couldn't risk complicating things, not when Parker needed stability more than anything else. Still, as they worked side by side, sharing stories and stolen glances, Victory couldn't help but feel that they were building more than just a nursery. They were rebuilding a connection, piece by piece, one that might one day grow into something even stronger. The turning point came at Victory's cousin's wedding, an event brimming with laughter, music, and the unmistakable buzz of love. Parker couldn't help but feel a twinge of envy watching couples sway on the dance floor, their happiness palpable. She lingered near the edge of the room, her gaze drawn to Victory, who stood at the microphone, poised to give her speech. Victory's voice rang clear and steady, though a tremor of emotion underlined her words. "Love is not always grand gestures or perfect moments," she began, her eyes sweeping over the crowd. "It's showing up. It's being there, even when it's hard. It's about being someone's shelter when the world turns its back." Parker's heart clenched as Victory's voice cracked. She could feel the weight of those words, the depth of feeling behind them. Victory's gaze lingered briefly on her, and Parker swore she saw something unspoken, something raw and vulnerable, in her friend's eyes. The applause was thunderous, but Parker could hardly hear it over the rush of her own thoughts. That speech wasn't just about love. It was about them. It had to be. The car ride home was quiet, tension thick in the air. As soon as they stepped inside, Parker turned to Victory, her hands trembling. "Was your speech about me?" Victory froze, her hand halfway to the light switch. "Parker, don't lie to me," Parker pressed, her voice wavering. "Just tell me the truth." Victory exhaled slowly, her shoulders slumping as she leaned against the wall. "Yes," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "It was about you. It's always been about you. I've loved you since we were kids. But I never said anything because I didn't want to lose you." Parker felt the air leave her lungs. You've loved me all this time?" Victory nodded, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Every time I saw you with someone else, every time I had to stand on the sidelines and pretend I was okay, it broke me. But I couldn't risk telling you." Parker stepped closer, her voice soft. I think I've always loved you too. I just didn't realize it until now." Victory's breath hitched, and Parker reached out, cupping her cheek. Their eyes locked, the weight of years of unspoken emotions hanging between them. When their lips met, it was slow and tender, a kiss that spoke of longing, hope, and a promise of something more. That night, as they lay entwined, Parker traced lazy circles on Victory's arm, her heart full in a way it had never been before. Their connection, once fragile and fraught with missed opportunities, now felt unbreakable. For the first time in years, Parker felt truly at home, not just in Victory's arms, but in the love they shared. 2 years later, Parker and Victory stood in front of their closest friends and family, their daughter, a bubbly toddler with Parker's eyes, clutching a bouquet of flowers. They exchanged vows, promising to love and support each other for the rest of their lives. As they shared their first kiss as wives, Victory whispered, "You'll never have to face anything alone again." And Parker knew, with absolute certainty, that she was finally home.